Hello again, everybody. This is Coding with Court, and this is our second episode of the mean stack tutorial. And today we're going to be going from our development project to a production website that'll actually be on the internet. This is coming to you guys after recording the initial video. So this one was kind of a long one, so I wanted to give you guys a quick overview and just summary of what we'll be talking about during this episode. Okay, so this is kind of the outline of the episode, and this is somewhat the order that we go in. So we start out the episode with getting a domain name. For my purposes, I chose Google Domain. It's about $12 a year. And just a heads up for all of you, whenever we get to the part where we discuss the EC2 instance on Amazon and we create it, you will really help yourselves if you already have the domain. Adding that public IPv4 address to the DNS settings will save you a lot of time. I got stuck and forgot to do that. But yeah, so we're also going to talk about, as I mentioned previously, Amazon EC2 instances. I chose the Ubuntu server because that's what I'm typically used to. But we're going to host our Angular and Express application. Specifically with Angular, just the ng build dist folder, not our actual Angular repository that we created last episode. So we will be doing a lot on the virtual machine in this episode. A lot of its management. We'll go through a couple installations, and as I told you guys in the previous episode, I'm going for a more practical hands-on tutorial. So not all of this was in order. It was kind of as the problems had come, but I just want to give you guys a heads up. These are the things you're going to need. You're going to need Node.js, Ngnix, PM2, which this is actually a npm package, and then you're also going to need Nginx certbot with Python 3. Certbot's what we're going to be using for the SSL certification. I can't remember if I needed anything else installed, but just follow along with the video and you'll see how it kind of all worked out for me. And we will be needing a new GitHub repository. It's just going to be the deploy repo, and this is only if you don't have if the EC2 instance you pick is the free tier, because every time I've tried building Angular on the free tier, it crashes. So if you are using a machine hosting your website that's got enough memory and is powerful enough to do that build without crashing, then you can just skip this step. And as I mentioned previously, we will be generating an SSL certificate with certbot, so we could have that really nice HTTPS for our website. So preparing for this episode, you could do a couple things ahead of time if you want to just skip around the video. And I'll be adding the timeline to kind of section out where things are at, so you don't have to watch the whole thing. But we will need a couple of routes added to our Express server just for testing. So if you could do something like /API/something, just anything that we can distinguish with a specific path for that route so that we can test our Express server is actually working, and returning like different things. So just a different message. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. If you are going to stick with the free tier for the EC2 instance, you will need a empty repository for the Angular production application. That's the way I did it. If you guys are doing this part in a different way, please share in the comment section so that I can check it out, because this is really the only way I've ever done it, is just using a new repository. And as I mentioned previously, as soon as you start that Ubuntu instance and you got that public IPv4 address, and if you do have a domain name, just add it to the DNS configurations and it will save you a lot of time. Alright, so let's go ahead and just show a very short demo of what we have at the end of this episode. So going to my website, CodingWithCourt, you can see I'm running our Angular application from the last episode. I haven't changed anything on the front end, and as you can see, we do have a secure connection. And just for example, if I type /API, here is our Express server, and if I type anything else after that, we get something else. So this is what we'll be targeting today, and this, at least for me, this kind of part, going from development to production was something that took me a while to figure out. So I'm hoping that this will help you guys out. And again, I'm very early on in my YouTube career, so if this video helps you, please like the video, and if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to my channel. But that's it for me. Please enjoy the video, and we'll see you guys the next episode. Hello everyone, welcome back to our second episode with Coding with Court, and we're going to be talking about how to get our website on the internet with Amazon Web Services. I'm going to start off today with getting a Google domain name so that I can have an actual domain for my website that isn't just a bunch of digits and things like that. So I'm for my website, I'm looking for Coding with Court, and I am on Google Domains. They're pretty good about it. So their prices are pretty reasonable. $12 a year isn't a big deal. They give you a bunch of suggestions, but make sure you grab the one that you want. And so for me, I'm going to be grabbing codingwithcourt.com. Add that to my cart. Let's go ahead and check out. They also do give you an email for your domain, which is kind of nice, especially later on, because I would like to set up automated emailing from our server, and we can use an email like this to do that, so we know it's coming from our website. But let's go ahead and check out. I'm obviously going to skip this part, but if you're following along with me, you would just type in all the information. It looks like Google has set up everything for me for my domain, and now I have it. And obviously, you guys do not need to get a domain name to complete everything in this tutorial series. I'm just assuming that you guys are watching this because you're wanting to get into a production website for whatever reasons that you guys have. And this is kind of why I'm starting with this for our second episode, because I would like to have the whole project set up where we have a production environment and also a development environment. So domain name, this part's the easiest, but now we need to head on over to AWS and sign up and create our own instances and things like that. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm over here on AWS. It can be kind of intimidating. Their user interface is very, very complicated, but it's very detailed. Alright, so I've already signed into an existing account that I have where I already run a couple of EC2 instances with Ubuntu. I'm just doing this because I want all of this centralized for me, but if you guys don't already have an account, it's free to sign up. I can't remember if you have to type in a debit or credit card information, but if you stick with the free tier service, which lasts for 12 months, you won't run into that. They won't charge you. So we're going to go ahead and go into EC2 instances. Okay, so I have one instance running currently, and that one is my portfolio website, but we're going to go ahead and launch a new instance. This is the one that I'm going for. are these free tiers, but I want the Ubuntu server, and you guys are more than welcome to try the other ones, but I've only ever used the Ubuntu server. So we're going to go ahead and select this one. Yep, we want to stick within that free tier service. You can go through all these details, but I'm going to go ahead and just go to review and launch. Alright, so it looks like it's created a new security group for me. Just fine, we can customize that later. Here's the storage they're giving me, 8 gigabytes, which is all we need. Don't worry about this. We'll go ahead and fix that later. I do already have a key that's generated, but we'll go ahead and create a new key so that we can all start together. So I'll call this CodingWithCourt. And make sure you download this because they will not show it to you again. So I'm going to go ahead and download that. And obviously, do not share this with anybody. This is just for you. Let's go ahead and launch this instance. That key is what we're going to use to help sign us in to our SSH terminal to the virtual machine. Alright. Here's the new instance that I started. It's currently pending. Just give it some time. Alright, it looks like it's running. And here's the public. Here's all the public information. Alright, so I know it generated a security group for us, but we're going to have to customize this security group so that we can accept connections from the web. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new rule here, and we'll start out with HTTP. We're going to assign that to, we're going to give it this port, and I believe that's all right. Yep. Actually, I would add anywhere here because we want anybody to access our website, and we'll have SSL, so HTTP will not be used, but it's good to have it. So here's HTTPS, and later on in the tutorial we will go over how to get an SSL certificate, and we'll be doing that through certbot. We'll do anywhere as well. So let's go ahead and save these rules. Alright, so what we're going to do next is we're going to actually SSH into our Amazon machine, the virtual machine that they created for us. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to open up git bash. Okay. So you'll need this public DNS IPv4 public DNS. Alright, so let's go ahead and sign in to our virtual machine using SSH. So Ubuntu is the name they've given us, our user. Now this is where we need to put in our, that's weird. I guess I didn't copy that right. Let's go ahead and copy this. So like I said, it's SSH. Our user is Ubuntu. Why is that not pasting right? Sometimes, okay, so it is definitely copying properly. Let's see if I can, okay. Sorry about that. Don't know why I was doing that. But it's going to be Ubuntu at, Now, instead of having to type in a password, we give it our primary key. Or not our primary key, but the SSH keys that it generated. So for me, that's going to be CodingWithCourt. And I know I said earlier you can't actually find this on AWS, but you can. I just thought you couldn't. Let's go ahead and sign in. Alright, looks like we're in. Now you can see I'm in a completely new machine, and Ubuntu is our user that they had given us. Okay, so let's just start very simple. We want to navigate to GitHub. You want to go to our repositories, and we want to add our repositories. Now, if you are doing the free AWS tier for the Ubuntu system that we're using, you will not actually be able to build for production in here. So you're gonna have to build outside of you'll have to build for production in GitHub or on GitHub and then transfer it over with a git pull. Because I've tried building it on the virtual machine with the free tier and it just crashes every time. We'll go ahead and start with the front end because we're gonna need that, and we're also gonna get into Ngnix too, because I changed my mind. We're gonna go with Mabel, our Express server. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna copy this link here. We're back in our virtual machine here. So I'm gonna clone this outside of Ubuntu. Do a git clone. Paste that. Okay, maybe I'm gonna stay in here. So let's go ahead and git clone. Alright, so it's going to authenticate me. So go ahead and type your information. Alright, and now you can see our project is in here. Wonder why the .env.dist isn't here. Let's go ahead and do a git pull. It's already up to date. Huh, that's weird. We're gonna need a .env though. Okay, so the ls just wasn't showing everything, but we already have a .env.dist. So let me remove the .env, and I'm gonna go ahead and copy the .env.dist into .env. So let's make sure that worked. Oh, I think I'm experiencing some lag. Yep. I believe all of this information is okay because we're still not using a database. Now, since this is our first time actually in this virtual machine, it doesn't matter where we're at, but let's go ahead and update everything on the system. It shouldn't take too long. Now we will be getting into Docker, but for now I'm only going to use Docker for development because not everybody's going to have access to Docker. So for the production stuff, we'll keep it outside of Docker, unless if we can get enough people to ask me to show it. After this though, we will be installing Nginx, and we'll also need to install Node.js. Alright, so Nginx, it's going to be the Nginx, it's going to be our basically our web server. It's going to be what's redirecting requests. So let's go ahead and install that. Just making sure I spelled that right. Okay, looks like that installed correctly. Now if we want to run Nginx, whoops, or check the status of it, I mean. Alright, so it looks like it's running, which is good. Or it's installed. So the command to start this. Okay. Yeah, I think it was already running, but better to make sure. Now, whenever our virtual machine starts, we want it to run Nginx, so we're going to type in this command so it can do that. Alright, so now every time our virtual machine starts up, it'll start that up. Let's go ahead and install Node.js. Okay, so I'm looking up a guide on how to install Node.js. And with this guide, they're suggesting to run this command. Say yes. We're also going to be installing something else too called Node Version Manager. Just give that a second. Alright, so it's actually a guide off of AWS, but let's go ahead and copy and paste this. In the description of the video, I'll add this documentation. So this command here is going to activate NVM. Not sure if it's supposed to show anything, but this next command is supposed to install Node. Okay, so it looks like we're going to be running version 15.12. So now if I say Node version, yep. What about, yep. So we have Node and NPM. And it seems like everything's working. That is great. So I will make sure to include this link in the description. Alright, so we'll go ahead and add because with Nginx you need a configuration file to kind of tell it, how to behave and everything. So we will add that to Mabel, but for now I'm going to just keep it on the virtual machine because I'm probably going to be changing it pretty often. So we're going to remove the default stuff that Nginx had already given us. Let's go ahead and remove that. And we're going to go ahead and you can use whatever editor you want, but I prefer Vim. Okay, so we're starting out blank. Now the syntax for Ngnix is pretty simple, but we're gonna start out with our server. It's very similar to JSON syntax. So we're gonna listen on 80 because that's where we're giving HTTP. The next part we need to do is add our server name. Now this is if you have a domain name, and so for me it's CodingWithCourt.com, and also www.codingwithcourt.com. Now our index is going to be index.html because that's what Angular compiles when you run the build. So here's my root. Now this part will actually be for Artemis. So I'm going to leave that the way it is, but this should be Artemis deploy. Okay, and here's my location. Just gonna go ahead and copy and paste this stuff. Okay. Now for our server, the Express server, it's going to start with API. So we're going to add a bunch of stuff here. I'm just going to copy and paste this so it's faster. And we're going to have to go into this file a couple times to set up a few things. Which is why eventually I'll probably add this to this configuration file to Mabel's repository. But I'm not ready for that yet. Okay, so I think this is a good place to just kind of leave it. So if you're not familiar with Vim, use insert to start typing, and when you're ready to switch back, you hit escape, hit the colon key, and use WQ, W meaning write and Q meaning quit. So now I can, so if I wanted to see everything inside of there, I can see it with cat, or you could use more or less. Alright guys, so I'm over back in GitHub, and I'm actually gonna, it's up to you on how you want to do this, but for me, I normally just create a new repository for my deploy for the ng build stuff. Just gonna copy this stuff here. Alright, so I'm gonna run ng build. There's really no need to do it with prod because we don't have anything in our environment.prod file anyways. Alright, so a dist has been added for us, and Angular already ignores that dist. So earlier we had already created this here. So let's go ahead and later on we'll use some kind of like pipeline to do this for us, but I just want us to get started. So let's go ahead and do git init. And again, I'm inside of the dist and Artemis. So git init. All right. And the next part, we're gonna add everything. Don't know why I'm losing my place here. Just say initial commit. Okay. Let's run through these one at a time. Okay. Set my main branch as main. Just go ahead and copy these here. Alright, I believe that had worked. Yep. And like I said, we will set up a pipeline to do this eventually because I don't really like the way this works. Because every time, I'm not sure if we rebuild the dist if we're gonna have to go through all those git commands again. So we will fix this because I don't really like this. But let's go ahead and copy this remote URL here, and let's finally switch back to our Ubuntu instance. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and let's go ahead and git clone. Good gosh, what did it paste? I don't know why this has been constantly happening to me today. But it's like whenever I copy something, it just does not want to actually copy over. And I really don't feel like typing all of this out. So let's see if I can get this going. Okay. For some reason that worked. So let's go ahead and git clone the deploy. It's gonna have me authenticate. I can't remember how to authenticate all that. Let's go ahead and do that now so we can all just not have to keep retyping our passwords. Alright, yeah, so I remember I've done this a couple times. I just didn't know the exact syntax. So let's go ahead and set our username. Mine's that. Oh, looks like I forgot an extra hyphen. Cool. Alright, so I don't know if that's actually going to fix that, but I believe it might. Anyways, let's continue on with the tutorial. So I would like to go, what in the world? I would like to go back into our Ngnix stuff because I can't remember if So let's just get inside of here. Up. Oh, well, I meant to Vim. I was wondering why that wasn't auto-completing. Okay. This all looks right to me. Let's go ahead and try. Okay, so kind of wondering why every time I try to hit the site, it's not working, and I've realized that I should probably reload Ngnix. And let's go ahead and see if that kind of helps things. Well, I'm looking back at our Nginx file and I'm noticing a typo here. Okay, so with our domain name, we're gonna have to, and this is if you did do a domain name, we need to configure our DNS settings. So we need to add our IPv4 address. So this one is my IPv4 address. Let's go ahead and add that. Well, guys, I was kind of scratching my head about this for a little bit, but it looks like we got our stuff running by adding the DNS here, which I forgot to do this step initially. So adding this here, and with our Nginx configuration, everything is working great. Although we aren't running the Express server, so we won't be able to hit any of our routes there. Alright, so let's move on to running the Alright, so for our actual server, because our front end is running now, but our server isn't. So we need to install PM2, and I'm installing it globally. Now PM2 will make sure our node script is running. Let's go ahead and get into Mabel here, and I want to add a new route that is pretty explicit. So let's go ahead and do API. We'll add a couple routes here just to make sure everything's working. So we'll do a res.send hello from Artemis or Mabel. Go ahead and copy this too, and we'll do API slash anything else really, and we can do hello from somewhere else. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and copy that, and again I'm just going to be pushing on master here, and you really shouldn't, but I'm going to anyways. So I'm going to add some test routes. I'm going to push. Alright, cool. So let's go ahead and switch back over to our git bash terminal. Alright, let's go ahead and do a git pull. Guys, I will figure out how to not have to type in our information every time. But like I said, I really want to focus on getting this done with you guys. So for PM2, we say start, and ours is server.js. We want to run it in production. Alright. Unknown option. Alright. Okay, so it's online. Everything's working. Let's show our server. Oh, status error. Or errored. Did it really? Did it really error out? Hold on. Yeah, it looks like it really did error out because whenever we hit /API, we get the 502 bad gateway. Ah, okay. So I forgot to npm install in here, which makes sense. You should have to npm install. It's very typical. So let's go ahead and start it again. Let's check that status. Okay, so we're online. Now let's go ahead and try and hit our route. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh this. Whoops. Alright, hello from Mabel. Now let's go somewhere else. Yep. Alright, so guys, we have our server and our front end working in production. Now the last thing we need to do is we need to fix this not secure part, and the SSL stuff with certbot. We're going to be using certbot. It's going to be pretty easy. So let's go ahead and get that done, and we should be good to go. And really with this kind of thing, if you do it well, you really won't have to do this kind of stuff too often. I'm going to go ahead and follow this tutorial to install certbot. So we're going to install Python certbot Ngnix. I might be looking at an older guide, so let's go ahead and try this Python 3 here. Say yes. Okay, so let's go ahead and say sudo ufw status inactive. All right. So, and again, this certbot, I believe you should still be able to use it. I believe if you don't have a domain name, but I would highly recommend getting the domain name. So Ngnix full. Then we're going to say sudo certbot Ngnix. Now we have to add our domain names here, so it's CodingWithCourt.com and www.codingwithcourt.com. Okay, so there's a bunch of things that certbot's going to ask us. So I'm going to be adding my email. Gonna agree. Gonna say yes. Okay, so it failed with www.codingwithcourt.com, and it might be because I don't actually own that. I know for sure, with Google, I just got Coding with Court. Let's go ahead and try that again, and let's do it without the www dot, because I haven't been able to get that work before. We're gonna choose 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and test my SSL here. And I'm going to copy and paste that. Actually, never used this before, so. So it's running this test, and it kind of looks like this. The link is right here. Well, it looks like that website gave me an overall rating of A, which is good, I'm assuming. I believe there's still some configuration we need to add to our Nginx configuration, but let's go ahead and see if this is working. Yep, it looks like we don't have to add anything else. We are now certbot certified, if that's what you want to call it. But everything is now using secure link, and our routes are working. I am going to come back in here and gonna add some more stuff to our Nginx configuration. Now I'm using the previous configuration of Nginx that I have on my portfolio website. That's kind of what I'm going off by. So let's go the default version here. Yep, so Coding with Court. Looks like I already added everything that I wanted to here. So it looks like we don't really need to do anything else in here, although I would like to fix this indentation. Oh, you know what? It looks like CertBot already added this for us. This is very nice of them. Anyways, guys, I'm super happy with how this all turned out. We now finally have our SSL set up. We have the Angular application and our Express application running smoothly. So I know the project setup and the production setup isn't always the funnest, to say the least, but I'm glad where we were able to go with this, and I'm really looking forward to actually getting into the code because I have a lot of cool stuff I want to show you guys. But I think this is going to conclude episode 2. I hope everything was explained well enough and shown properly to you guys. I'm always open to feedback, so please feel free to give me some feedback. Well, guys, this is going to be the end of our second episode, and I look forward to seeing you guys later.